leave a comment with your city name, and subscribe to our YouTube channel.
The ancient observatory of Kethmora had watched the cosmos for 17 million years, its crystalline sensors reaching across impossible distances. To monitor the pulse of creation itself, for all that time, it had recorded the birth of stars, the collision of galaxies, and the slow dance of cosmic evolution. But on this day, its readings showed something that had never been seen before in this galaxy, something that should never be seen anywhere. Astronomer Prime Velthara materialized before the central display, her ethereal form flickering with patterns of distress that her species had not exhibited for eons. The Eternal Watchers had transcended physical fear millions of years ago, yet the data streaming across her consciousness filled her with an emotion she had forgotten existed: terror. "Confirm readings," she commanded, her voice resonating through dimensions that lesser species couldn't perceive. The observatory's AI, itself a consciousness that had contemplated the universe for longer than some civilizations had existed, responded with what could only be described as reluctance. "Readings confirmed, Astronomer Prime. The entropy wave is approaching from intergalactic space. Estimated time to galactic perimeter, 47 standard cycles." Velthara form solidified as she processed the impossible data. The entropy wave, known to the most ancient civilizations by a simpler, more terrifying name: death itself. Not death as a biological process, not the ending of individual lives, but death as a fundamental force of the universe, the concept of any given consciousness and purpose. "Pattern analysis indicates a direct course toward our galactic core," the AI continued. "No deviation detected, no signs of natural occurrence. The wave shows all characteristics of previous manifestations recorded in distant galactic clusters." "How many?" Velthara asked, though she dreaded the answer. 17 galaxies consumed, no survivors, no resistance recorded. Average consumption time, 3.7 standard cycles. Velthara's form began to fade as the magnitude of the threat overwhelmed even her transcendent consciousness. In all her millions of years of existence, through countless cosmic catastrophes and universal upheavals, she had never encountered a force that could not be understood, negotiated with, or ultimately overcome. Death was different. Death was absolute. Initiate emergency protocols, she managed. Summon the Galactic Council. Alert all member civilizations. And she paused, her ancient mind struggling with the implications. Begin preparing the final archives. The final archives, repositories of knowledge and culture, that the most advanced civilizations prepared only when facing absolute extinction. Records of what they had been, sealed in quantum vaults that might survive even after their creator ceased to exist. Because when death came for a galaxy, there was no escape. There was no resistance. There was only the choice between dignified acceptance and screaming futility. The galaxy had 47 cycles to make peace with its own ending. The emergency session of the Galactic Council convened in the neutral space of the Nexus, a construct that existed partially outside normal reality to facilitate communication between species who had evolved beyond physical form. Representatives from the galaxy's most advanced civilizations materialized in the vast chamber, their diverse forms united by a single emotion: resignation. Supreme Chancellor HFY, eldest of the Council and a being who had witnessed the birth of several star systems, addressed the assembly with the gravity befitting their last gathering. "Fellow beings," his voice carried harmonics that resonated across multiple dimensional frequencies. "We face the end of everything we have known, everything we have built, everything we are." The chamber fell silent except for the quantum fluctuations of beings struggling to maintain coherent form under the weight of cosmic despair. "The force approaching us is not a natural phenomenon," HFY continued. "It is not a stellar event, a gravitational anomaly, or any form of explainable cosmic occurrence. It is death itself, the universe's own mechanism for ensuring that all things end." Counselor Nixandra of the Ethereal Collective spoke first, her form shimmering with patterns of sorrow. "The historical records are clear. 17 galaxies have faced this force. 17 galaxies have been consumed utterly, leaving not even the memory of their existence." "How does it work?" asked Representative Cole Th of the Mechanical Hegemony, his crystalline logic centers processing the available data with clinical precision. HFY activated the chamber's central display, showing readings that hurt to comprehend directly. Death operates by unraveling the quantum information that defines existence itself. It does not destroy matter or energy. It simply makes it so that things never existed in the first place. Stars that have burned for billions of years become nothing. Civilizations that span centuries become less than memories, and there is no defense. This from Prime Consciousness Yosera of the Hive Collective, whose species has survived by adapting to every threat they had ever faced. None. The force is not malevolent. It simply is. It is the universe's way of ensuring that entropy eventually claims all things. We can no more fight death than we can fight the laws of physics themselves. The chamber erupted in voices, languages, and forms of communication that span the electromagnetic spectrum and beyond. But beneath the cacophony, a pattern emerged: acceptance. These were the galaxy's most advanced civilizations, species, that had solved every puzzle, overcome every obstacle, transcended every limitation. And they were preparing to die with dignity. "We have 47 cycles," HFY announced. "I recommend we use them to complete our final archives, to preserve what knowledge we can in quantum vaults that might survive our passing. Perhaps some future civilization in a distant galaxy will find these records and know that we existed." "What of the younger species?" asked Counselor Vex Myron of the Ascendant Empire. "Do we tell them what approaches we will inform the major civilizations?" HFY decided. They deserve to know. They deserve the chance to prepare their own farewells. And the primitives, the pre-transcendent species still bound to physical form? HFY's ancient form flickered with something that might have been compassion. There is no need to terrify them with knowledge they cannot comprehend. Let them spend their final cycles in ignorance. It is kinder. As the council session dissolved, no one noticed that one particular species had not been informed of the galaxy's impending death. In the vast bureaucracy of galactic civilization, Earth was still classified as a developing world, too primitive to participate in adult conversations about cosmic threats. It was a classification error that would change the fate of the universe itself. Dr. Elena Vasquez stared at the impossible readings scrolling across her quantum telescopes displays, her coffee growing cold as the magnitude of what she was seeing slowly penetrated her consciousness. At 34, she was the youngest director in the history of Earth's Deep Space Observatory, a position she had earned through a combination of brilliant intuition and stubborn refusal to accept that anything in the universe was truly unknowable. Today, that stubborn refusal was being tested to its limits. "Arya, run the calculations again," she commanded, addressing the AI system that controlled the observatory's vast array of sensors. "Calculations confirmed, Dr. Vasquez." The AI replied in its carefully neutral tone. "The approaching phenomenon exhibits characteristics consistent with large-scale information entropy. Current velocity suggests galactic perimeter breach in 47 standard cycles." Elena rubbed her temples, trying to process what the data was telling her. The approaching wave wasn't made of matter or energy in any conventional sense. It was something far more fundamental, a distortion in the quantum information that underlied reality itself. "What happens when it reaches us?" she asked. "Based on extrapolation from sensor data, the phenomenon appears to cause retroactive existence failure. Objects within its influence zone cease to have ever existed." That Admiral Sarah Chen arrived at the Deep Space Observatory within 3 hours, her expression shifting from skeptical to grim as Elena walked her through the sensor data. At 51, Chen had seen enough impossible situations to recognize when the universe was about to hand humanity another cosmic crisis. "So let me understand this," Chen said, studying the holographic displays. "Something is approaching our galaxy that will cause everything in it to stop existing. Not destroyed, just never existed in the first place." That's the simplified version, but yes, and the galactic government knows about this. They must. Their sensors are far more advanced than ours, but they haven't contacted Earth. Chen's expression darkened. "Because we're not considered advanced enough for end-of-the-world meetings." Apparently not. Chen was quiet for a long moment, processing the information with a methodical approach that had made her one of Earth's most respected military leaders. Finally, she looked up at Elena with a grim smile. "Dr. Vasquez, in your professional opinion, is this force truly unstoppable?" Elena hesitated. "According to every physical law I understand, yes. You can't fight the basic structure of reality." "That's not what I asked. I asked if it's unstoppable. I don't know. The data suggests it operates by unraveling quantum information. In theory, If you could preserve that information somehow, stabilize it against entropy, then you could fight it. Maybe, but it would require technology we don't have, resources we can't access, and an understanding of quantum mechanics that's centuries beyond our current knowledge. Chen stood and straightened her uniform. Dr. Vasquez, in my experience, the word impossible is usually just another way of saying, we haven't figured out how yet. Admiral, this isn't like fighting an enemy fleet or defending a planet. This is like trying to fight gravity or entropy itself. Then we'd better get started figuring out how to do exactly that. Elena stared at her. You're serious, dead serious, because I'll be damned if I let anything, and I mean anything, kill my species without a fight, even if it's death itself, within hours. Chen had activated Earth's emergency protocols. Military installations across the solar system went to high alert. Research facilities began pooling their resources, and humanity began preparing for a war against the impossible. Meanwhile, Elena began the most important work of her career, figuring out how to kill death. Before it killed them all, the first breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Dr. Yuki Tanaka, a quantum information theorist working on consciousness transfer technology, approached Elena's team with a radical proposition. What if death isn't really unbeatable? She asked during an emergency research session. What if it's just that no one has ever tried the right approach? Explain, Elena said, looking up from the quantum field equations that had been consuming her attention for the past week. Death operates by unraveling the quantum information that defines existence, right? But information can be preserved. We do it all the time with computer data. Why not with reality itself? Dr. Marcus Webb, the project's theoretical physicist, shook his head. The scale is impossible. We're talking about preserving the quantum state information of entire star systems, potentially the whole galaxy. The storage requirements alone would exceed the information density of black holes, would they? Yuki pulled up her own calculations. I've been working on quantum consciousness compression for the Immortality Project. The same principles could theoretically be applied to any information structure. Elena studied the equations, her excitement growing. You're talking about creating backup copies of reality. Exactly. If we can preserve the quantum information that defines matter, energy, space, and time within a given region, we could theoretically restore it even after death unravels it, even if it's possible. Webb interjected. The energy requirements would be astronomical. We'd need the power output of entire star systems. Then we'd better start asking for help, Elena said, reaching for the communications ray. Because this is the only idea we've got. The response from the galactic community was mixed, absolutely insane, declared Counselor Nixandra during the emergency session Elena had finally managed to force. Primitive species attempting to fight cosmic inevitability through technology they barely comprehend. With respect, Elena replied, maintaining her composure despite the casual dismissal. Do you have a better plan? We have acceptance. We have dignity in the face of the inevitable. We have given up, Admiral Chen interjected bluntly, which has never been humanity's strong suit. Supreme Chancellor HFY studied the human proposals with ancient eyes that had seen the rise and fall of countless civilizations. Even if your theory is correct, the implementation would require resources beyond what any single species possesses. The construction time alone would be tight, Elena admitted, but possible. If everyone cooperates. You're asking us to bet our remaining existence on an untested theory proposed by a species that has barely achieved interstellar travel. I'm asking you to bet it on a species too stupid to know. When they're beaten, the silence that followed was deafening. Finally, Representative Colvith of the Mechanical Hegemony spoke up. What exactly would you need? Elena activated her holographic display, showing a complex schematic that had consumed her team's attention for days. Reality anchors. Massive quantum field generators, positioned throughout the galaxy, each one capable of preserving the information. Structure of local space-time. If we can create a grid of these devices, you could back up the entire galaxy, HFY finished, his ancient mind grasping the implications. Preserve it against information entropy, in theory, and in practice, Elena's expression was grim. In practice, we have 39 cycles to build technology that shouldn't be possible. Deploy it on a galactic scale, and hope it works when death arrives. The odds of success are negligible. Observe prime consciousness Yulsera. The odds of survival without trying are zero. Chen replied, I'll take negligible over zero any day. Slowly, reluctantly, the galaxy began to mobilize for humanity's impossible plan. The next 20 cycles were a frenzy of activity unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Entire civilizations that had spent millions of years in contemplative existence suddenly found themselves engaged in the largest engineering project in cosmic history. The reality anchors were massive constructs, each one the size of a small moon and containing quantum processing power that strained the limits of known science. They had to be positioned at precise points throughout the galaxy, creating a three-dimensional grid that could preserve the quantum information of everything within its boundaries. It's actually working, Dr. Tanaka reported during one of the daily progress meetings. The first anchors are coming online, and the quantum preservation fields are stable. We're seeing successful information backup on test objects up to planetary scale. What about the power requirements? Elena asked. Massive, but manageable. The galactic civilizations have been surprisingly cooperative about providing energy resources. Admiral Chen looked up from the tactical displays showing anchor deployment across the galaxy. Surprising isn't the word I'd use. They're terrified. For the first time in their existence, they're facing something they can't think their way out of. They're desperate enough to try anything, even trusting humans, Elena agreed. Speaking of which, how are our volunteers holding up? The volunteers were perhaps the most remarkable aspect of the entire project. Thousands of humans had stepped forward to operate the reality anchors, knowing that the devices required conscious oversight to function properly. They would need to remain at their posts when death arrived, manually maintaining the quantum preservation fields even as reality unraveled around them. It was, in essence, a suicide mission. The operators would preserve the galaxy, but could not preserve themselves. Morale is complicated. Chen admitted. They know they're going to die, but they also know they're saving everything else for humans. That's apparently enough. Elena felt a surge of pride in her species. Leave it to humans to volunteer. Elena stared at the translation, her mind reeling. Death wasn't just a cosmic force. It was conscious, it was aware, and it was talking to them. Arya, open a response channel. All frequencies. Dr. Vasquez, are you certain? Do it. Elena took a deep breath and addressed the approaching force of cosmic extinction. This is Dr. Elena Vasquez of the species Homo sapiens. We've received your message. Our response is thanks, but no thanks. We decline your offer of cessation. The response came almost immediately, carrying undertones of confusion. That somehow made it even more terrifying. Refusal is not possible. I am inevitability incarnate. I am the universe's mechanism for ensuring all things end. No consciousness has ever refused cessation. Well, Eleanor replied with false bravado. There's a first time for everything. Death's arrival at the galactic perimeter was heralded not by destruction, but by a silence that seemed to echo through the quantum foam itself. Stars didn't explode or burn out. They simply ceased to have ever existed. Planets didn't crumble. They became less than memories. Eleanor watched from the primary control center as the outer reality anchors came online, their quantum preservation field struggling against the advancing wave of absolute entropy. The displays showed a cosmic battle between existence and non-existence, information and void. Anchor 7 is holding, reported Yuki from her monitoring station. Information preservation at 97% efficiency. Anchor 12 showing stress fractures in the quantum matrix, called Dr. Webb. The field generators are operating beyond design specifications. Can we compensate? Elena asked. Already doing it. Rerouting power from reserve systems. Admiral Chen stood at the tactical display, watching the galaxy-wide battle unfold. It's working. The anchors are actually slowing the advance. Elena felt a surge of hope. Maybe, just maybe, they could actually pull this off. Then Death spoke again, and this time there was something new in its cosmic voice, irritation. Your resistance is unexpected. No species has ever attempted to preserve existence against my approach. Fascinating, but ultimately futile, is it? Eleanor replied over the communication array. Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like we're giving you a pretty good fight. You misunderstand the nature of our conflict. I do not fight. I simply am. I am the concept of any given form. You cannot preserve existence by technological means any more than you can prevent. Gravity through force of will. Maybe not, but we can sure as hell try. The wave of entropy intensified, and several outer anchors began to fail. Eleanor watched in horror as entire star systems that had been preserved moments before simply vanished, not just destroyed but edited out of reality itself. Death is adapting, Webb reported grimly. It's learning to overcome our preservation fields. Then we adapt to, Elena replied. Initiate backup protocols. Switch all anchors to dynamic frequency modulation. That will reduce our coverage area by 30%. Better to preserve 70% of the galaxy than lose all of it. The battle continued for hours, with death pressing forward and the reality anchors falling back in controlled stages. Elena's team worked frantically to maintain the quantum preservation fields, but it was becoming clear that their original plan wasn't enough. We need a new strategy, Chen announced. At current rates, we'll lose anchor cohesion within 6 hours. Elena stared at the tactical displays, her mind racing through possibilities. They had built a defensive system to preserve the galaxy against entropy, but death was adapting faster than they could compensate. Unless, Yuki, she called out, what would happen if we inverted the preservation field polarity? Inverted. That would destabilize the quantum matrix. Everything within the field would lose coherence. But what if we did it selectively? What if we created zones of controlled quantum decoherence? Elena's mind was working furiously now, building on an idea that was either brilliant or completely insane. Death operates by unraveling quantum information, right? But what if we unraveled it first, in a controlled manner? What if we temporarily dispersed the galaxy's information into quantum storage, then restored it after death passed? You're talking about intentionally destroying the galaxy to save it, Webb said slowly. I'm talking about hiding the galaxy where death can't find it. If the information is already in quantum storage, death can't unravel it because it's not technically existing in normal space-time. Chen looked up from her displays. How long would it take to back up the entire galaxy, every star, planet, civilization, and consciousness? Elena did rapid calculations. Maybe 8 hours. If we push the anchors beyond safe parameters, and if it doesn't work, then we all die anyway. But at least we die fighting. Elena opened the galaxy-wide communication channel, all reality anchor stations. This is Central Command. We're implementing Protocol Lazarus. Prepare for total information extraction. Dr. Vasquez, came a voice from Anchor Station 15. Human volunteer Marcus Rodriguez, who had insisted on manning one of the most dangerous positions. Are you sure about this? Elena looked around at her team, at the displays showing death's inexorable advance, at the countdown timers showing how little time they had left. No, she admitted, but I'm sure about one thing. We're humans. We don't go quietly into any good night, cosmic or otherwise. Understood. Command. All stations reporting ready for Protocol Lazarus. Elena took a deep breath and gave the order that would either save the galaxy or destroy it. Execute. What followed was the most complex operation in the history of sentient existence. Across the galaxy, reality anchors began extracting quantum information from everything within their fields. Stars, planets, civilizations, individuals, even the fabric of space-time itself. The data was compressed, encoded, and transferred to quantum storage devices that existed partially outside normal reality. Sector 7 extraction complete, reported one operator. Sector 12 at 90%, called another. Sector 4, experiencing cascade failures, warned a third. The anchor can't handle the data load. Elena watched the progress displays with mounting tension. They were essentially digitizing the entire galaxy, backing up existence itself to quantum storage while death approached at light speed. Death's wavefront is accelerating, Webb announced. It's detected what we're doing. How long until it reaches the core sectors? Chen asked. For hours, maybe less. Elena checked the extraction progress. They were at 6 to 7% completion. Too slow. All stations. Increased compression ratios. Accept data loss in non-essential systems. Define non-essential. Came the voice of Dr. Sarah Kim from Anchor Station 23. Elena closed her eyes. They were being forced to choose what parts of galactic civilization were worth preserving. Prioritize consciousness data, living beings first, then cultural archives, then infrastructure. Understood. Switching to emergency protocols, the extraction continued as death's wave swept through the outer galaxy. Elena watched star systems vanish from the displays. Not destroyed, but simply edited out of existence. Billions of years of cosmic evolution erased in seconds. But the anchors held. The quantum storage devices accumulated more information than had ever been processed in galactic history. They were literally saving the galaxy by temporarily destroying it. 80% extraction complete, Yuki reported. Death's wave front reaching Sector 5, Web, warned, 90%. Sector 3, 95%. Sector 2, impact with core systems in 30 minutes. Elena watched the final countdown, her heart pounding as they raced to complete the impossible. Around her, the control center staff worked with desperate intensity, coordinating the largest data transfer in cosmic history. 98%. Sector 1, Death's wave reaching the galactic core. 99%. The displays showed Death's entropy wave washing over the last inhabited systems, including the control center where Elena's team was working. She felt a strange calm descend as she realized they had done everything they could. 100%. Extraction complete, Yuki announced. All galactic information successfully transferred to quantum storage. Elena smiled as reality began to unravel around them. Execute restoration sequence in 3, 2, 1. The universe went dark. Elena's consciousness returned slowly, like emerging from the deepest possible sleep. She found herself floating in a void that wasn't quite empty. Information danced around her in patterns that her human brain could barely comprehend. She was in the quantum storage matrix, she realized, dead but not dead, existing as pure information. Dr. Vasquez, Yuki's voice came from everywhere and nowhere. I'm here. Status report. Protocol Lazarus appears to have been successful. All galactic information is preserved in quantum storage. Death's entropy wave has passed through our local space-time coordinates, and death itself. There was a pause. Then, impossibly, Death's voice echoed through the quantum void. I am confused. This has never occurred before. You have hidden existence itself from my approach. Fascinating. Elena felt a surge of defiance even in her disembodied state. So you can't end what isn't technically existing in normal space-time. Correct. You have found a loophole in inevitability itself. Remarkable. No species has ever been sufficiently stubborn to attempt such a strategy. We're a stubborn species, indeed. I have consumed 17 galaxies. In each case, the inhabitants accepted their fate with dignity and resignation. You are the first to refuse, not just refuse. We fought back, yes. You fought the concept of ending itself, and won. This outcome was not anticipated in my fundamental programming. Elena felt a grin spreading across her non-existent face. So what happens now? Now, I continue my purpose, but your galaxy has earned an exemption. I will not return to this location. You have proven that existence, when sufficiently defended, can indeed resist cessation. And the other galaxies, the ones you're heading for, they will face the same choice you faced. Accept ending, or find their own way to resist it. Perhaps some will choose your path. Elena felt the quantum storage matrix beginning to shift around her. The restoration is beginning, isn't it? Yes. Your quantum anchors are rebuilding normal space-time, restoring matter and energy from the preserved information, a most elegant solution. As reality began to reassemble itself around her, Elena had one last question. Why? Why do you exist? What's the point of ending everything? Death's response carried something that might have been cosmic loneliness. I am balance. I am the universe's way of ensuring that entropy eventually claims all things, that nothing exists forever. But perhaps existence that fights hard enough for itself deserves to continue. Maybe the universe needs to rethink its priorities. Perhaps it does. Elena felt her physical form solidifying as the galaxy reconstructed itself around her. Star systems blazed back into existence, planets reformed from quantum data, and billions of consciousnesses awakened to find themselves alive in a universe that had briefly forgotten they existed. Dr. Vasquez, Yuki's voice was now coming from the control center speakers rather than the quantum void. Restoration at 100%. All systems nominal. We did it. Elena looked around at her team, at the display showing a fully restored galaxy at the miracle they had accomplished through sheer bloody-minded human stubbornness. Yes, she said quietly, we did. The aftermath of humanity's victory over death itself sent shockwaves through galactic civilization that would reverberate for millennia. For the first time in cosmic history, a species had not merely survived an encounter with absolute entropy, they had forced it to retreat. The emergency session of the Galactic Council that followed was unlike any in recorded history. Representatives who had accepted their own extinction just days before now faced the impossible reality that existence could indeed fight back against inevitability itself. The implications are staggering. Supreme Chancellor HFY addressed the assembly, his ancient voice carrying notes of wonder. If death itself can be defeated, what other cosmic certainties might be challenged? Elena found herself at the center of attention as the architect of the impossible victory. With respect, Chancellor, we didn't defeat death. We found a way to work around it. We proved that the universe's rules are more flexible than we assumed. You proved that human determination can overcome cosmic law, declared Counselor Nixandra. Her earlier skepticism transformed into awed respect. Your species refused to accept inevitable extinction and found a way to make the impossible possible. We proved that giving up is a choice, Admiral Chen corrected, and humans are really bad at making that particular choice. The practical implications of the victory were almost as profound as the philosophical ones. The reality anchor network that had saved the galaxy was now permanent, creating unprecedented opportunities for scientific advancement and cosmic exploration. We have demonstrated that quantum information can be preserved and restored on a galactic scale, Dr. Tanaka reported to the Scientific Council. The applications for consciousness transfer, matter transmission, and reality engineering are virtually limitless. More importantly, Elena added, we've proven that the universe is far more malleable than we thought. If we can back up and restore entire galaxies, what else might be possible? The cultural transformation was perhaps the most significant change of all. Civilizations that had spent millions of years in contemplative existence suddenly found themselves energized by the possibility that any limitation could be overcome through sufficient determination and ingenuity. The humans have given us something we had lost, observed Representative Cole Th of the mechanical hegemony. They have returned to us the concept of hope, the belief that no challenge is truly insurmountable. But perhaps the most important change was in humanity itself. The species that had saved the galaxy found themselves elevated from primitive newcomers to cosmic game changers. Their approach to problem-solving studied and emulated by civilizations millions of years older. We've learned something important about ourselves, Elena reflected during a quiet moment in her laboratory. We've learned that human stubbornness isn't just a personality quirk, it's a cosmic force. Admiral Chen joined her at the observation window overlooking Earth. Think we're ready for whatever the universe throws at us next, Elena smiled, looking out at the stars that they had literally saved from non-existence. I think the universe should be asking if it's ready for us. Above them, the galaxy spun on in its eternal dance, preserved against the ultimate entropy by the sheer bloody-minded refusal of one small species to accept the unacceptable, and somewhere in the vast cosmic void, death itself moved on to other targets, carrying with it the memory of the first species that had ever told it no. 6 months after the restoration, Eleanor received an unexpected visitor, Dr. Sarah Kim, who had operated one of the reality anchors during the crisis, appeared at her laboratory with a data pad and an expression of barely contained excitement. Elena, you need to see this, Sarah said, activating a holographic display. I've been analyzing the quantum resonance patterns from the anchor network, and I found something. What kind of something? Communication signatures. The reality anchors are picking up messages from outside our galaxy. Elena leaned forward, studying the data patterns. From where? The Andromeda galaxy, and the signals are artificial, intelligent. Someone over there is trying to talk to us. Elena felt her pulse quicken. What are they saying? Sarah's grin was infectious. They're asking for help. Apparently, death is heading for their galaxy next, and they want to know how we survived. Elena looked at the data, then at her colleague, then out at the stars where other civilizations were facing the same impossible choice they had faced. The same cosmic force that had once seemed invincible was now being challenged by species who had heard about humanity's victory. Sarah, how long would it take to build another anchor network? One we could deploy to other galaxies with our current technology. maybe 5 years. Why? Elena was already reaching for her communication array, because apparently we're not done fighting impossible odds. Admiral Chen, this is Dr. Vasquez. We need to talk about expanding our operations. As Earth began preparing for its next impossible mission, saving galaxies they had never seen from a cosmic force they had already defeated once, Elena reflected on how much everything had changed. Humanity had started as a small, stubborn species on a minor planet in an unremarkable solar system. They had become the galaxy's answer to the impossible, the universe's response to inevitability itself, and they were just getting started. Death had taught them that the universe had rules. Humans had responded by learning to rewrite them. The stars themselves weren't ready for what came next. The message that came from the Andromeda galaxy was both desperate and hopeful. Translated through the quantum communication network, it carried the voices of hundreds of species facing the approach of their own cosmic ending. To the beings who defeated death, the message began, "We are the Andromeda Collective, representing 437 member civilizations. We have received quantum echoes of your recent victory against the entropy wave. We face the same threat. Estimated arrival time, 23 standard cycles. Request assistance." The message that came from the Andromeda galaxy was both desperate and hopeful. Translated through the quantum communication network, it carried the voices of hundreds of species facing the approach of their own cosmic ending. To the beings who defeated death, the message began, "We are the Andromeda Collective, representing 437 member civilizations. We have received quantum echoes of your recent victory against the entropy wave. We face the same threat. Estimated arrival time, 23 standard cycles. Request assistance." Elena read the message 3 times before the full implication sank in. They weren't just being asked for advice. They were being asked to save another galaxy entirely. The logistics alone are staggering, Dr. Webb reported when the emergency response team assembled. Andromeda is 2.5 million light-years away. Even with our most advanced quantum communication systems, there's a significant delay in coordinating any response, and the scale, added Dr. Tanaka. Andromeda has over 1 trillion stars compared to our galaxy's few hundred billion. The anchor network would need to be proportionally massive. Admiral Chen studied the tactical displays with the eye of someone who had made impossible operations routine. What will we need to make it work? Elena pulled up her preliminary calculations. First, we need to transmit the complete technical specifications for reality anchor construction. Second, we need to coordinate the deployment across an entire galaxy in less than 23 cycles. Third, she paused, looking at the numbers that made her stomach turn. Third, we need to sacrifice another team of human operators. The anchors require conscious oversight. Someone has to stay behind to maintain the preservation fields when death arrives. The room fell silent. They had all lived through the last sacrifice. Watching friends and colleagues volunteer for certain death to save everyone else, the thought of asking humanity to make that sacrifice again, for people they had never met in a galaxy they had never seen, was almost overwhelming. How many volunteers will we need? Chen asked quietly. Thousands, maybe tens of thousands. Depending on the anchor configuration, Chen stood and straightened her uniform. Then we'd better start asking for volunteers. Admiral, Elena said. You can't seriously be considering, Dr. Vasquez. 6 months ago we proved that humans don't accept the impossible. Are we going to start now just because the impossible got bigger? Elena looked around at her team, brilliant scientists, and dedicated military personnel who had already given everything to save their own galaxy. They were being asked to do it again, on an even larger scale, for strangers. We'll need to modify the anchor design for intergalactic deployment, she said finally, and we'll need to train the Andromedan species to build and operate them. I'll coordinate the volunteer recruitment, Chen added. We'll need specialists in quantum engineering, reality anchoring, and she paused, saying goodbye. Over the following weeks, humanity once again defied cosmic probability. The call for volunteers to save Andromeda was answered by more humans than the mission required. Scientists, engineers, military personnel, and civilians stepped forward to sacrifice themselves for beings they would never meet. Why? Elena asked. Marcus Rodriguez, who had survived the first death encounter, was volunteering for the second. Why risk everything again? Marcus smiled. Because that's what humans do, Doc. We don't let things die if we can help it. Not our things, not anyone's things. That's just who we are. The technological challenges were immense, transmitting detailed, technical specifications across intergalactic distances, required pushing quantum communication technology beyond known limits, training alien species to build and operate reality anchors remotely, meant developing new forms of long-distance education and technical support. We're essentially teaching an entire galaxy to build the most complex technology in known existence, Dr. Tanaka reported. Through quantum communications with a several-hour delay. It's like trying to perform surgery through a telescope. Are they learning? Elena asked. They're motivated. Nothing motivates learning like impending extinction, the Andromedans proved. To be quick studies, species that had never encountered quantum reality engineering began constructing anchor networks. With desperate efficiency, the galaxy that had seemed doomed began to buzz with activity, as hundreds of civilizations worked together to implement humanity's salvation protocol. It's working, reported Dr. Lisa Park, who had taken over coordination of the Intergalactic Assistance Program. Andromeda's anchor network is at 60% completion with 18 cycles remaining. What about the operators? Chen asked. Elena's expression was grim. We've trained over 40,000 human volunteers for remote operation of Andromedan anchors. They'll link into the network through quantum consciousness transfer when death arrives. Survival probability, 0. The quantum transfer process is one way. They'll exist as pure information within the anchor network, maintaining the preservation fields until the restoration process is complete, and then they'll disperse into quantum noise. Permanent death, not just the temporary kind we experienced. Chen was quiet for a long moment. Do they understand the cost? They understand. They're going anyway. 3 days before Death's arrival at Andromeda, Elena received a final message from the distant galaxy. It was personal, directed specifically to her from someone calling themselves Coordinator Zalthic of the Andromedan Defense Initiative. Dr. Elena Vasquez, the message began. I am writing to thank you and your species for the gift you have given us. Not just the technology to resist death, but the concept that resistance is possible. Before your example, we had prepared to die with dignity. Now we prepare to live with determination. Elena felt tears welling up as she continued reading. We know that thousands of your people will sacrifice themselves to operate our anchors. We know that you are giving the lives of your brightest minds to save beings you have never met. There are no words in any of our languages for such selflessness. The message paused, then continued with what Elena could only interpret as hope. We want you to know that we are learning from your example. We have volunteers of our own now, Andromedans who are willing to risk everything to help other galaxies when their time comes. You have not just saved us, you have taught us to save others. Elena closed the message and looked out at the stars, knowing that in 3 days, thousands of her fellow humans would die to preserve lives they would never see. It was simultaneously the most tragic and most beautiful thing she could imagine. Aria. She called to the AI system, opened a channel to all human volunteers participating in the Andromeda mission. Channel open, Dr. Vasquez. Elena took a deep breath. This is Dr. Elena Vasquez speaking to all volunteers for the Andromeda Salvation Operation. In 3 days, you will sacrifice your lives to save a galaxy. I want you to know that what you're doing is the most human thing imaginable, dying so that others might live, even when those others are strangers. She paused, searching for words adequate to the moment. You are proving that humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology or our intelligence. It's our refusal to let death win, no matter how cosmic, how inevitable, or how final it claims to be. You are making the statement that love for life, all life, is stronger than any force in the universe. Elena's voice strengthened as she continued. Death took 17 galaxies before it met us. After Andromeda, it will know that every galaxy it approaches might fight back. You are not just saving Andromeda. You are teaching the universe itself that existence when properly defended, can resist. The Battle of Andromeda was fought across impossible distances, with human consciousness transferred through quantum links to operate reality anchors in a galaxy they had never seen. Elena watched from Earth as the cosmic drama unfolded, tracking Death's approach through long-range sensors and quantum communication rays. Death has reached the Andromedan perimeter, reported Dr. Park. First anchor stations coming online. Elena held her breath as the data streams began flowing in. Thousands of human volunteers had transferred their consciousness across intergalactic space to man the reality anchors, knowing they would never return. Anchor efficiency holding at 94%, called Dr. Tanaka. The Andromedans are following protocol perfectly. Death's wavefront is adapting, Webb announced. It's using the same entropy intensification we saw during our own encounter, expected. Elena replied, implementation of counter-adaptive protocols. The battle followed a similar pattern to their own cosmic encounter, but on an even grander scale. Death pressed forward with waves of absolute entropy, while human-operated anchors preserved reality in carefully calculated zones. But this time, humanity had the advantage of experience. Death is showing signs of frustration. Park reported, quantum analysis indicates increased chaotic elements in the entropy wave. Elena smiled grimly. It's learning that humans don't get easier to deal with through repetition. The climactic moment came when Andromeda implemented their own version of Protocol Lazarus, backing up their entire galaxy to quantum storage. While Death passed through, Elena watched the displays as an entire galaxy temporarily ceased to exist, its trillion stars and countless civilizations preserved as pure information. Extraction complete, reported the quantum communication array. Andromeda galaxy successfully preserved in quantum storage. Death's entropy wave has passed through local coordinates. Restoration protocols initiated. Estimated completion time, 6 hours. Elena slumped in her chair, exhausted by the tension of watching another impossible operation succeed. They had done it again. Humanity had reached across the cosmic void to save a galaxy they had never seen. Dr. Vasquez, came a voice from the communication array. One of the human volunteers speaking from quantum storage within Andromeda's preservation matrix. This is Lieutenant Sarah Foster, reporting successful operation completion. All anchor stations maintained integrity through the restoration process. Acknowledged. Lieutenant, thank you, all of you. Ma'am, it was an honor. And Doc, we can see something from in here. Death isn't heading for another galaxy. It's stopped. It's just hovering in intergalactic space. Elena leaned forward. Stop. For how long? Hard to tell from this perspective. But the quantum signatures suggest it's been stationary for several cycles. It's not moving toward any target. Elena felt a chill of realization. It's learning. Death is studying what we did, figuring out how we beat it, or, came Foster's voice again. It's thinking about whether it wants to keep trying to end galaxies that might fight back. Over the following hours, as Andromeda restored itself to normal space-time, a new reality began to emerge. Death had not continued its cosmic journey. Instead, it had taken up a position in the intergalactic void, apparently contemplating the implications of its second defeat. This is unprecedented, reported Supreme Chancellor HFY during an emergency session of the Galactic Council. Death has never exhibited hesitation or uncertainty before. Its behavior has always been inexorably purposeful. Maybe, Elena suggested, it's realized that the universe is changing, that civilizations are learning to fight back. Indeed, that appeared to be exactly what was happening. Over the following months, quantum communication networks brought word from distant galaxies that had heard about humanity's victories. Species that had never encountered death were preparing for its eventual arrival. Reality anchor networks were being constructed across the cosmic web. The knowledge of how to resist absolute entropy was spreading like a virus of hope. Through the universe, we've done something remarkable, Admiral Chen observed during one of their strategy meetings. We've taught the universe that existence can fight for itself. More than that, Elena replied, we've taught death that ending everything isn't as easy as it used to be. The philosophical implications were staggering. For the first time in cosmic history, death faced the possibility that its purpose, ending all things, might itself come to an end. Civilizations throughout the universe were learning that inevitable wasn't actually inevitable. The question, now, Elena continued, is what happens next. Does death adapt to our resistance? Does it find new ways to end existence? Or does it realize that maybe the universe doesn't need everything to end after all? The answer came in a message that Elena would remember for the rest of her life. Death itself, the cosmic force that had consumed 17 galaxies, opened a communication channel to Earth. Dr. Elena Vasquez, the message began, carrying the weight of cosmic eons. I have been considering our encounters. Your species has twice prevented me from fulfilling my fundamental purpose. This outcome was not anticipated in my original programming. Elena felt the eyes of the entire galaxy upon her as she formulated a response to the universe's most fundamental force, death. She said simply, maybe it's time to consider the possibility that your programming needs an update. I have observed 17 instances of galactic extinction, each one accepted with resignation and dignity. Your species and those you have taught represent a new variable in cosmic evolution existence that fights for itself with sufficient determination, appears to deserve continuation. Elena held her breath. Was death actually reconsidering its purpose? I am announcing a change in operational parameters. Death continued. Galaxies that demonstrate sufficient will to resist extinction will be exempted from cessation protocols. The universe appears to benefit from the presence of civilizations determined enough to fight for survival. Elena felt tears streaming down her face as the implication sank in. Are you saying you're going to stop ending everything? I am saying that ending everything may not be necessary if everything is worth preserving. Your species has taught me that existence, when properly valued and defended, has meaning that transcends entropy itself. Around the galaxy, civilizations that had prepared for cosmic death instead found themselves facing cosmic life. The universe had learned something new about itself, that the will to exist could overcome even the fundamental drive toward ending. Dr. Vasquez, Death's voice carried something that might have been cosmic gratitude. Thank you for teaching me that inevitable is just another word for hasn't been challenged by the right species yet. As the communication ended, Elena looked around at her team, at the people who had risked everything to prove that nothing was truly impossible. They had started by refusing to accept their own extinction. They had ended by teaching death itself that existence was worth preserving. So, Admiral Chen said with a grin, "What's next? Now that we've convinced death to retire, what other cosmic constants need adjusting?" Elena laughed, looking out at the stars that would now burn a little longer because humans had been too stubborn to let them die. "I don't know," she said, "but I'm sure the universe will think of something, and when it does, we'll be ready to tell it that whatever it thinks is impossible probably just needs the right approach." The galaxy spun on in its eternal dance, preserved against entropy by the sheer bloody-minded determination of one small species that had looked at the concept of ending itself and said the most human thing imaginable, "Not today." And in the vast cosmic web, other civilizations heard that defiance and began to echo it, teaching the universe that existence, when properly defended, could indeed resist any force. Even the concept of finality itself. The stars had never burned brighter.